done my fair share of travelling, I feel. Done some interrailing in Europe, done a few American road trips, went to Canada, went to Mexico, went to New York, went to New Orleans. I would say I'm not the most travelled person on the planet, obviously. I have organised a few trips which have gone pretty well, and I feel like I'm the go-to person out of my friends that people ask about travelling tips, perhaps. A lot of you guys have asked me about my travelling, how I plan, how I book a hotel, how I budget. So today I thought I would give you a little insight into how I do that. Hello. So, like I said, I've done a few trips. I've been to various places in America, Europe and Canada, Mexico. Like I said, there's still a lot of places in the world that I want to visit. This is my experience in the places that I've been to. This is how I plan and budget my trips. And then I'm going to end with a Q&A kind of style with some questions from you. Let's start right from the beginning. When it comes to travel, I am now at a point where I am kind of budget to mid-range travel. When I was younger, I would always want to try and get things cheapest, the best deal, because I didn't have as much money. I didn't have as much disposable income, and I think that's pretty standard and normal. Nearing my 30s, I feel that myself and people my age, we are more about saving a bit more money and spending a little bit more on certain aspects of holidays. And I don't want that to come across as really shitty and snobby, and I'm just being realistic and honest. So first of all, how do you plan your road trip? I'm going to answer you in the most matter-of-fact way ever. So actually, planning the road trip takes a bit of time, but it's kind of logic. For what I've done is I've figured out a start point and an end point, and then worked out the middle in between. So for example, I have booked a road trip in Canada for this year, September, where we start in Vancouver and we finish in Banff. Now I spent a day or two on my sofa wrapped in a duvet. Also, there's a ton of different advice forums and travel forums online that will give you the best route when you're going or you're driving somewhere. Also, I must point out, the way that you plan your road trip is also going to be really dependent on how you're going to get from A to B. If you're driving, which personally I feel like is the best way because you're so free, you've got a vehicle, you could go wherever you want, then it doesn't matter. If you're doing things by bus or by train, I've only got experience by train, it's not going to be as flexible, but it will still work out. I have interrailed before. That's where you get an unlimited train ticket across Europe and you can go anywhere across Europe. And I did it with Leanne Woodfall and it was brilliant. The way we planned that is we picked where like a start A and a B point, and then we figured out how we're going to get there via some cool places. So we were like, how about this place, blah, blah, blah. And then we figured out how we're going to get there, on what days, and what we're going to do in those places. So for interrailing, that was kind of easy because most European, pretty much all European cities or points of interest will have a train station of some sort. Whether it be it's direct or you have to get like a connecting train out to somewhere, there will be a station to some juncture where you can go to. So yeah, once you've kind of figured out your route, it's then time to book your accommodation. Now, this is the scary bit because you feel like the accommodation is probably going to cost you the most, but that means like, okay, there's no going back. I've figured out where I'm going to go. I'm going to book my hotel and also book my flights. But first of all, the way that I book my hotels is I either go through Airbnb or I do it through booking.com. Now, I know there are some hotel booking sites which I really probably should join up to, where you get points, therefore you get money, like a Boots card. You get points for staying in hotels and then you get discount off. That's how we did it when we went to Vancouver to LA. Josie had hiked up a load of points and we got like £25 off each hotel. It was brilliant. Some of them were like £75. It was great. So there are some, I think that's hotels.com, but there are some where you could do that. But I use booking.com because I like the reserve now, pay later function, because to ease my peace of mind, with those ones, you don't have to pay for the hotel until the day before. Like it's free cancellation up till the day before. But I always panic that I spent all this money on hotels, but what happens if I can't go on my trip? Like that's a scary thought. So I like to use booking.com for that reason. I like using Airbnb as well. I feel Airbnb has a right charm to it. Like you get a feel for being like a local there, especially if you stay in someone's house, so you get a whole apartment to yourself. I feel like Airbnb might be a little bit better for value for money sometimes. If you're like renting an entire apartment, it might be more expensive because it's like a whole house. And And yeah, you get a real feel for like being a local there, and it's more, you'd feel at home there. The only thing is with Airbnb is sometimes I worry about its reliability. I had a situation once where I got an Airbnb in Florida and the lady gave me the wrong passcode to enter her villa. And so I was like on the driveway for ages waiting for her to reply to my email like, we can't get in. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit, put me off a little bit, but I still use it. We used Airbnb across Europe and it was brilliant because it was so cheap. But yeah, most of the hotels that I've booked for my Canadian road trip will be on booking.com. Oh yeah, and we had an Airbnb in Yosemite because that was super easy and great. There wasn't many hotels in Yosemite, so I had to book like a condo thing. Booking.com's great. To find the perfect hotel, I look up all the prices. I figure out how much roughly I want to spend in each place. Different places across the world cost different amounts of money. So Europe, I found, was super cheap to get a really nice place, really reasonable price. Whereas, you know, when I've been to like LA, it's a lot more expensive. Vancouver, a lot more expensive. It is going to be different depending on where you want to go, how much hotels cost. Now, I'm not a hotel snob, but as I stated earlier, I'm kind of like at this point where I like to stay in like a mid-level hotel, not like mega bucks luxury, thousands of pounds, not mega budget cheapest option, but just somewhere in the middle there, more towards budget, but at somewhere where I know I'm going to feel safe, comfortable, relaxed, and I won't get there and worry that I'm going to have a horrible hotel room in a really like scary area with lots of noise and not good facilities, because I feel like I've done it before. I've gone somewhere really, really cheap, got there and it's been awful and ended up just getting a hotel down the road. I feel like in the long run, if you just spend that little bit extra, you will just for the reassurance that you'll be satisfied. Most chain hotels you could guarantee will be good because they'll have a standard, they'll have like a company policy. For example, like I book Premier Inns and travel lodges in the UK all the time. You know what you're going to get, stay there, all good. So yeah, it really depends on where you are as to how much that's going to cost. In Canada, we have been spending about £50 to £100 per person per night in hotels. That's just how much it's cost us. It really honestly depends on where you're staying. But me and Mark have budgeted £50 to £100 each per night in different locations that we're staying at. And I feel that's, for me, like the hotel is one of the bits that I'm happy to spend a bit more on. So yeah, once you've all booked in, whether it'll be booking.com, hotels.com, Airbnb, whatever. Some of them, yeah, you don't have to pay up front for, so at least you know how much money you need to save before you go away. So that's what me and Mark did. We have booked all our hotels. We're like, okay, right, this is how much the hotels are going to cost us. We've got 10 months from the time of booking to save up for that. But we pretty much booked our flights straight after as well, so we did have to pay for that up front. I use Skyscanner for my flights. You get a good look at like all the different airlines and their deals that they have on. You can do multi-city, you can do single, you can do return, you could choose the class and the amount of passengers. So it's good for like price comparison to see like how much these things are. Flights can vary also depending on where you're going. Most American flights that I've been on have ranged from like £300 to £600. Canada was about £400 return. So worth bearing in mind that just because a flight looks like it's cheap and good value for money doesn't mean that you're not going to get stung later on. So if a flight looks really cheap, maybe it's too good to be true. That means that when you get to the airport, they're going to charge you extra for your luggage, for your food, for your seat, and then you'll end up racking up a bill when you get there. That happened when I flew to Canada last time. I was like, fucking hell, what? I've got to pay £50 for my bag? I was pissed off. So read the small print, make sure that it all includes it. It might just mean that you have to go for a slightly more expensive flight, but it means that in the long run it will save you money because you won't have to spend it later on. You won't get any nasty shocks. If you're doing a road trip where you're driving, car hire isn't, I would look to see how much it would be. If you feel like you could afford to book it at that time, then book your car as well. But it's not essential to get it in straight away. One thing that I would give advice on is check out what like brand of vehicle, what type of model of vehicle you're hiring, and see if it comes with a navigation system. If it comes with a navigation system, like inbuilt with the car, don't let them rook you into buying a sat nav, like hiring a sat nav. So like we spent an extra like 50 or like 50 to 100. I can't remember how many it was. It was like a bit on a sat nav. But then we got in the car and it already had a sat nav in the car. So I was like, for fuck's sake, it already had built-in navigation. So bear that in mind. I would also pay a little extra if more than one of you can drive. Just for having 2 drivers. Because if you just have one driver, it can be a bit much. Like Josie can't drive. So I did all the driving on our last road trip. And that got quite tiring after a while. Especially at I had a 10-hour drive from San Francisco to Yosemite. So it did suck a little bit. But it was all right. I was like, I need to stop. And it was cool. But yeah, if you can pay a little extra for having an extra driver, definitely do it because you'll be like, oh, lifesaver. So that's basically all the stuff that you need to book. Now, the fun stuff is actually planning what you're doing when you're there and sort of budgeting for that whilst you're away. So the way I sort of do it is I like to have, say for example, you're going for 2 weeks. I like to have about 4 days in each place, bearing in mind one of those days will essentially be a travel day. So I'm just going to use my latest road trip as an example of how I've planned it. So I've got a little bit longer in Vancouver because I'm seeing my friend Emma there. So I fly in on one day, then we have 1, 2, 3 full days in Vancouver. So we fly in on the first day, then following that we have 3 full days in Vancouver. And on the 4th day, we're traveling out to Whistler, which isn't far. So we still would have half a day in Vancouver, half a day in Whistler, depending on how we wanted to do it. So the 3 full days that we're there, I just research what there is to do in Vancouver, where to eat in Vancouver, and make some sort of itinerary. So we've got a lot of activities in mind to do. And then we've only got 2 days in Whistler. And then after that, we're going to travel to Jasper. And then we've got 4 days in Jasper. And then got another travel day. And then 4-5 days in Banff. So yeah, always take into consideration that one of your days will be a travel day. I always like to think, okay, between each stop should be about no more than 4 or 5 hours drive, because you can leave 8-9 o'clock in the morning there for like lunchtime, and then you've still got all day in this place. So you've technically got 4.5 days in each place. Depending on like what there is to do in the area, will also depend on how long you want to be there for. So you don't have to be somewhere for 3 or 4 days if it's just like a quick whistle stop. But if there's a particular place that's got lots of stuff to do, then you might want to spend longer there. The only exception for our driving, we've got like an 8-9 hour drive, is because I was just like, fuck it. Let's just get that big chunk out the way. It's going to be a beautiful drive. And then we'll have more time in Jasper, which is somewhere that we wanted to go for longer because there's lots of stuff to do, lots of hiking that we want to do and activities. But that's kind of how like me and Josie did it. We were in Vancouver for 4 days, 3 days in Yosemite, 2 days in Big Sur, then 6 days in LA. Depending on what there's around will depend on how long you want to stay in each place for. It's all about getting that iCal up, man, getting your diary out and figuring out which works best, and all about that initial research on like what the places are like. When it comes to budgeting spending money, that is entirely down to you and your spending habits. Now, I can only speak from a perspective of going to Europe and America. Europe was a lot cheaper. Me and Leanne, we ate out a lot. We got a lot of breakfast stuff to eat in as well, but it was so cheap to eat out in Europe. We ate out all the time. We ate well, we drank a lot. Because booze and food is so cheap. America, Canada was a little bit more expensive especially because the only really places that I've been to in America are generally quite expensive. New York was pricey, LA was pricey. Like touristy places generally are a little bit more. The things that I budget for when it comes to spending money is I just want to make sure that I've got enough money to eat out at least twice a day, like lunch and dinner. I don't so mind. I like having a good breakfast, but I'm quite happy to grab something really quick for breakfast or have like a bag of croissants or something. Or actually, sometimes it's quite nice to get a picnic for lunch from like a supermarket and eat it somewhere. But that can sometimes cost just as much as going out for a sandwich in a restaurant or a cafe, depending on how hungry you are. So I like to make sure that I've got enough really for food. When I've done my research, I also like to look at the activities that are available to do. And then think, okay, well, I really want to go whale watching. I really want to go whitewater rafting. I want to do this. So I'm going to need enough money to pay for those. I'd hate to have the feeling of going somewhere, seeing something really, really awesome and thinking, I can't really afford to do that. So I always have the mentality of just take more than you think you'll need, because you'd hate to go all the way to somewhere and then miss out on an opportunity and think, God, I've already spent this much money on this trip. it's very unlikely that I'm going to be able to come back so soon. Save as much as you can for spending money. I mean, I'll be honest, I will probably make sure I've got about £500 per week if I go away. £500-600, depending on sometimes an activity could be like £100, £100, £150, like pricey. And then you've got your food on top of that, petrol on top of that. There's an emergency, you'll need some money. That's just me being realistic and wanting to seize the day and the opportunity on things. I think spending money is important, and I would save as much as you can. If you don't have a huge amount, you can always cut corners in some areas, like not eating out every single day, doing free activities. Like, to be honest, I think the only thing that really I'm going to pay for when I go to Canada is whitewater rafting and my whale tour. The rest of it is we're just going to be hiking. I think it really also depends on the type of holiday. Canada will probably eat breakfast at hotels, which are already included. Get packed lunches in the day for like our hikes, and and then probably be eating in the evening. But if you're like somewhere super touristy, like in a city where you're just eating out at restaurants all the time, that's going to cost more. Honestly, it depends on what you're doing and what your preferences are. I'm just going to answer some of your questions, some of my favourite ones regarding a road trip. How do you plan a road trip? Is it better to use a travel agent? I think this is a good one because I've used a travel agent before, and they are good for like getting your foot in the door. And that peace of mind that it's all been organised for you. I think if you've never travelled before, a travel agent is great, because once you're out there and you're out in the big wide world and you see how it all works, and you notice all the ways of doing it yourself, and you're filled with a bit of confidence, then I feel like you'll be able to do it yourself after that. But I feel like travel agents are good for that first holiday experience. And also they're good because you could pay a deposit on a trip and then save up, pay it off like later on down the line. Can you use your UK phone as long as you travel? You can, it just depends on what network you're on. I'm with Vodafone, and it's like, I have it so I can use all my included minutes and texts and data for extra £5 a day. So I have to take that into consideration when I travel. So I'm like, okay, so I'm away for 2 weeks. It's 14 times 5 is 70 quid. So it'll be an extra £70 I just need to think about spending. How to be safe? Any tips? I think it's just about instincts and initiative. And if somewhere feels unsafe and you get a bad feeling, don't go there. Don't go out on your own. Look after your belongings. Always take your most valuable things out with you in a safe place, or at least put like your passport and your money in a safe at a hotel. Yeah, just keep what you value most close to you. How do you find the best deals for your money without getting ripped off? I feel like this is about research. So with the hotel thing, and generally actually just being out and about, TripAdvisor is brilliant for looking at hotels, like what they're actually like. Like I will look at a hotel on booking.com or whatever, and then I'll go on TripAdvisor and I will see what it's actually like on there, because you'll get all these really glossy photos when you look on a booking website. In all honesty, they could be shite. So TripAdvisor gives the most brutal, honest look and insight into a hotel, so you can see if you're actually staying somewhere nice. When you're actually out there, try not to fall too much into a tourist trap. Talk to locals, or other people that have been to that place before, and see where the best deals are. Say, for example, you might want to do an excursion or something touristy. Don't get ripped off because you're not from around there. Organise travel companies or organise everything yourself. Day trips and travel. So I've kind of answered that already, but there is nothing wrong with using like a travel agent when you're out there for your trips. I've used agencies before for like excursions. Sometimes it's nice to book an excursion and know that you'll be picked up from your hotel and you'll be dropped off at this time. It can be quite helpful sometimes just to have a travel agent doing it for you in that respect. Just like I said previously, make sure it's kind of trusted, and then they're not going to rip you off. So it's all about your research and finding things out online. You can go online and find like directly book like an activity. Like for example, the whale watching tour. There are loads of whale watching tours in Vancouver on Granville Island, and I just went to a few of them and looked at the prices and sort of picked the one that looked kind of the best, but also the best value for money. And I just went in and booked it myself. But then you can go for like a travel agent that will sort it out for you, but it probably will cost you a little bit more. Where do you start to get an estimate on how much to save? I think the best way to start is to look at hotels and flights, figure out where you're going to go, how much average it is to stay in each place. Then look at the flights and then go, okay, right, so flights are going to be £400. The hotel's going to be £700 for the holiday. That's this much money. And then I'll probably take about this much spending money to tie me over. Then you've got your idea of what to do. So if you save like 50, 100, 200 pounds a month, put it in a holiday fund, book it far enough in advance where you can actually realistically save for it. So most of my friends, when they go on holiday, they'll put 100, 150 pounds aside a month straight out their wages into a savings account, maybe even 200 pounds a month into a savings account, and they'll just boom, they'll save for a few months and then go. I get paid differently to my friends. Like I get paid 4 jobs, and it can cut. Some months I get paid a bit, some months I get paid fuck all. So I'll always take a little percentage out of my pay package each month and put it in my savings account. I'm always topping up my savings account anyway, so I always just have like a fund there for fun and emergencies, basically. How much spending money did you budget for? Depending on where you're going to go. I think, you know what? I'll be completely honest with you. When I go to America, I budget for $100 a day. That sounds a lot, but if you're eating out 3 times a day, you've got taxis, you want to get some beverages, that is about right. So that's how much I spend, I would say, on average. It can even itself out though. Like there'll be a day where we literally sat on the beach all day and didn't do anything, may have spent about $30, but there'll be another day where we go to fucking Disneyland and spend loads of money. So yeah, I would say that I'd probably spend in America like $100 a day. Well, I budget for $100 a day, but it might fluctuate depending on what you're kind of doing. So that's like the average for me. Do you make a detailed itinerary or do you go where the day takes you? I think I like to plan activities, like specific things that I need to book. We'll go, okay, that day's for that day's for that. And then you've got like 2 free days. It's really fun to explore. So you also got to allow for like hearing about cool things when you're there. So you don't want to plan too much because you might hear a local or be in a bar and hear someone talk about like the dragon in the cave. And you might be like, oh, I want to go to see the dragon in the cave. But I can't because I've already got a massive itinerary. So I always allow a little breathing space for like exploring. How do you find the best places to stay? This is a combination of trawling through booking.com and TripAdvisor and Airbnb, which I've said. Instagram is quite good as well. Looking at other travel bloggers and seeing where they've stayed. Asking people that have already traveled to a place. Good recommendations. What was your experience with Trek America? I'm looking to book with them. Trek America is great. So if you are nervous about traveling and about booking it, definitely book through a road tripping like Trek America, because I had an amazing experience. They booked it all for you. You have all the activities ahead of you. I think it's really good value for money, and you are put with like-minded travel buffs. I think you can book with a friend. They're all really, really great. I'd love to do another one. So if you are a bit of a travel virgin, definitely give it a go. What are the top 10 things to bring on a road trip according to you? Okay, comfy shoes, comfy trousers, and like comfy shoes and clothes, a good backpack, water, a good playlist, a reasonable amount of spending money. You never know what's going to happen. Snacks for the car, sunscreen, navigation system. You've got to have internet for like research of places to go to. Ice. Keep things cool in the car. A lot of people have asked about budgeting and budgets, and I can see why. I mean, people want to travel. I love travel, but the thing is you've got to make travel a priority in your life. If you want to save for traveling, make it a priority. Put away as much as you can afford to a month. See how much you can afford to put a month away. Like look at your income, think, okay, well I can afford to put this much aside. So in months, I'll have this much money. Where can I go to for this much money? If I can save for longer, then I will. I can go somewhere even further. And then just figure out what you want from that road trip. What do you want to spend money on? If you don't mind, if you want to stay in a cheap hotel, a budget hotel, because you want more money to do this, this and this, by all means fucking do it. If you want to eat loads of really great food and then use as that your main source of your budget, then do that. If you want to stay in nice hotels and maybe save your money elsewhere, then do that. If you want to fly in fucking premium economy or first class on your flight, then spend your money on that. It is all down to what you can afford and what you want to spend your money on. My thing is reasonable, comfortable hotel, and I like food. I'm quite happy with doing walking and free activities. Couple of fun things I have to pay for, but I'm happy swimming, hiking, exploring, walking. That is me. I'm happy. Oh, someone wants to know, how do you find places to eat? My claim to fame on trying to find places to eat on a road trip. So, it's getting darker. Oh my God, the sun is setting. I'm taking so long. I like to look where I am, where I'm going to be nearby, zoom in on the map, look where the food places are, click on them on maps, see what comes up. And then if it looks all right, I'll then go on Instagram, right in the restaurant, and see how that looks. Or I'll go on Instagram and I'll write hashtag food in, and then wherever I am, or the city and food, or the place and food, and see what comes up in the area. Instagram, honestly, is the place for finding places to eat. And I'm not just talking about Instagram food places, because I fucking think that is just, now. I hate Instagrammable restaurants because it's more aesthetic than substance and actual good food. But just, yeah, use Instagram to look at just normal people's photos, not blogger photos, not influencer photos, a normal Joe's fucking picture of his burger, and go, that looks great, I want to eat there. So that's how I kind of do it. Or word of mouth, or I ask just people that I know. That is it. I hope it was useful. If you want me to do another one of these videos going more into depth of things, then let me know. If you've got any questions, put it in the comments and I will reply. Getting better at replying to comments. I'm spending more time. I will reply to most comments in the first hour of me uploading the video, just because I need to schedule in me time. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you've got any more questions or you want me to do any more travel related videos. See you later.